The untouchable True School Sports Empire proudly presents something the boxing game's been missing. Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. Now, as you guys can see, I'm in the friendly confines of the George Bush Airport in Houston, waiting to go home. Not home, but waiting to go back to Las Vegas. And I figured while I'm sitting here, I'd kill some time. I'd talk to you guys just about some of the fights that happened last night because I know I wasn't live for the fights. So that's what we're gonna do. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna keep the streets fed. So the first video I want to make is in regards to last night's main event between Jermall Charlo and Juan Montiel. Now, Charlo did what we thought he would do. We thought, it'd be a pretty one-sided fight. He'd win. Much like the Brendan Adams fight a couple years ago, Jermall Charlo fought in his hometown against a guy that was perceived to be overmatched, and he wasn't able to put the exclamation point on the fight and get him out of there, which is now raising questions about how good is Jermall Charlo. And I'm going to put it to you guys like this. Because he's made his career intentions very clear. Very, very clear. Obscenely clear. And I think it's fair to say that at this point, Jermall Charlo's boxing career is becoming a big waste of time. And I'm going to explain to you what I mean, because I don't want to just come off as a guy who's just some sort of hater, because I'm not a hater. I like Jermall Charlo. I like watching him fight. And I want to see him be the best of Jermall Charlo. But there's some things in his attitude and his mentality he's got to change. Otherwise, he'll never fulfill his potential. Now, we know that when it comes to the middleweight division, 160, the options for viable fights that are going to take Jermall Charlo to the next level in terms of him being a household name, in terms of him and his legacy in boxing and just even pound for pound in boxing, those options are limited. They're sparse. The only fights people are interested in seeing for Jermall Charlo are against the likes of, Triple G, and he's going to be fighting Murata by the end of the year. You have Demetrius Andrade, who he really should be fighting because he's a champion just like him. They're both American fighters, undefeated American fighters, and they're both, great, fantastic fighters to watch. So I don't see why that fight couldn't happen. Those two guys need each other, but Charlo has been hell bent on not fighting Boo Andrade. They're trying to freeze him out. He's even his trainer, even Ronnie Shields, came out and said, we're not fighting Demetrius Andrade. We have no interest in that. But at the same time, you have Charlo, who beats Montiel, doesn't stop him, doesn't show the extra bit of quality that you should be showing in these fights in your hometown, because that's what fights in your hometown are for. Fights in your hometown are to basically get you a knockout, get you a sensational performance so that you can build some momentum and some hype for yourself. That's what these hometown fights are for. They're not for you to say, oh, well, I was in there with a guy who was awkward and could punch and, I just boxed him. No, that's not what these are for. You got to show the extra bit of quality in these fights. And, Charlo hasn't been fighting the best opposition. And even when he's not fighting the best opposition, he's not showing the extra bit of quality on a consistent basis. I mean, yeah, he boxed very well against Derevyanchenko, but, the Brendan Adams fight, the Korobov fight, this fight, he's winning, he's doing what he's got to do, but he's not showing himself to be creme de la creme that people think he is. So I think when you look at his career intentions, he came out in his post-fight interview last night and he said, I'm staying at 160. This is my division. He called out GGG, he called out Canelo, but he didn't call out the guy that he should be fighting, which is Demetrius Andrade. It is a disgrace that Jermall Charlo is so hell-bent on ducking Demetrius Andrade, because let's be real, he's not a big star, and after going to his fight, I can confirm to you he ain't a big star. I was in the Toyota Center last night, and I was expecting like this big crowd, because I'm thinking, okay, it's Jermall Charlo, he's in Houston, he's fighting a Mexican fighter who can punch. I was expecting a big crowd, and I was very let down by the crowd. I mean, they had the upper deck sectioned off, so they didn't even use a whole level of the arena. They didn't use the upper deck. They had a tarp over the seats where the upper deck was. So that's number one. I was ringside. I was in the first row ringside. I had floor seats, and behind us, about 15 to 20 rows behind us, they had pockets and pockets of empty seats. There were lots of empty seats. So Jermall Charlo is not even selling in his hometown, and if you're not really selling like that in your own hometown, then you don't have the leeway or the room to be bougie and say that I'm not going to fight a Demetrius Andrade. Jermall Charlo, get your ass in the ring and fight Demetrius Andrade. If Jermall Charlo does not do anything for the rest of his career, if he doesn't try to make that fight with Boo Andrade happen, if he doesn't try to unify the division, then he's a disgrace to boxing. And then that goes for anybody else that holds a belt at 160. If you try to duck Demetrius Andrade, you are a disgrace to boxing. Because at the end of the day, I understand this is a business. I have the utmost respect for fighters because, especially recently, I've had a chance to see what they go through and just how deep their commitments and sacrifices are. So I have a profound respect for the fighters, but I'm also still a boxing fan, and I have a responsibility here on YouTube to tell how it is. Jermall Charlo has a lot of ability, has a fantastic world-class jab. He's got punching power. He's got a lot of positive attributes that give him a high ceiling to be a great fighter in the sport. But you can't be a great fighter of a sport. You can't say you're a killer if you ain't beating no killers. You can't say you're a killer if you're going 12 rounds of Brandon Adams. You can't say you're a killer if you're going 12 rounds of Montiel. You know, if you talk how Jermall Charlo talks, you gotta be what you say you are, and that's the hitman. So, you know, it's amazing to me how Jermall, who I didn't always like, to me, he's proven himself to be the real deal. A guy that's willing to fight anybody, anywhere, any place, anytime, who, if he beats Brian Castaño in his next fight and becomes undisputed, he will cement himself as one of the greatest 154-pounders this sport has ever seen. Okay? Jermall Charlo is doing his thing, and he's a pound-for-pound fighter. And his career is as interesting as it's ever been. As to with Jermall Charlo, we see him against this cannon fodder opposition, and it's becoming a waste of time. So either you fight Demetrius Andrade, you know, and you show the world that you're one of the best fighters out there, or retire from boxing, because your career is a waste of time. If you're not in it to fight the best, obviously you want to make money. Obviously, those things are important. It's prize fighting. The prize comes first. But you gotta at least try to attempt to fight the other champions in his weight class. And I don't think he's trying to fight Demetrius Andrade. I think he's made every intention clear that he wants to duck him. He's made every intention clear that he has no interest in fighting him. And the reason he doesn't want to fight him is because Demetrius Andrade will school him, and he won't even win 3 rounds. He won't even win 3 rounds against Demetrius Andrade. Demetrius Andrade will 10-2 his ass or stop him in the later rounds. And he knows that as well as anybody, so that's why he's gonna duck him. He's gonna bring these little rinky-dink fights to Houston and not sell out and have the whole upper deck sectioned off. And it's unfortunate because Jermall Charlo, he owes it to himself to be more than he is right now in boxing. But, you know, he can stay delusional and stay in his little bubble and do what he wants to do. It's cool. But, you know, congrats to him on the win against Montiel. And hopefully he can help me change my tune and make the fights that we want to see happen against Demetrius Andrade. Because he's not going to fight Golovkin. Golovkin's got his plans already set in place. They don't include Charlo. So the fight that he needs to be looking at making is against his fellow American, his fellow undefeated American middleweight champion, Demetrius Andrade. So I'm going to leave it at that, you guys. Leave your comments down below. Take the time to subscribe. And like I say in every single one of these videos, you can love me or you can hate me. I'm just a kid from Daniel. So until next time, take care, guys.